45 ACP versus 44 Special, and what we have today is our Fiocchi Defense Dynamics ammunition. Both of these are a 200 grain hollow point. Our 44 Special is a semi-jacketed 200 grain hollow point. Our 45 ACP is just a jacketed hollow point. Both 200 grains. Our 44 Special is rated at 900 feet per second. Our 45 ACP rated at 890 feet per second. So we can see, you know, how they're rated. You know, they're very similar in ballistics, and a lot of people will compare 44 Special to 45 ACP, and they'll say they have similar ballistics, and I would have to kind of agree with that, even though our 44 Special is about a 43 caliber bullet, as where our 45 is a 45 caliber. Still very similar. And the guns I'm going to use today is my Smith & Wesson Model 69 and 44 Magnum with a 4 1/4 inch barrel versus my 5.3 inch Glock 41. Very similar size overall and similar bullet travel. And a lot of people will say, well, that has 5-inch barrel, that has a 4-inch barrel, this is longer. Well, semi-autos include the chamber in that measurement, revolvers do not. So from the tip of that bullet to the muzzle, they're about the same in both of those. So I'm going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy I get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test, where I'm just going to go into plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential is of those cartridges are. After that, I'm going to do more real world simulation. I'm going to have 4 layers of denim on this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, I'll have a 1/4 inch medium density fiber board that represents hitting ribs or sternum. That'll be more of our real world simulation. And then I am going to shoot at my steel to see what kind of practical accuracy I can get. So let's get started with this test. All right, first we have our 45 ACP rated at 890 feet per second, a 200 grain, and our 44 Special is rated at 900 feet per second. So only a 10 feet per second difference between the both of those and the rating. So 45 ACP, let's see how close we get to that 890 feet per second. 874, 881, 877, 873, 900. So pretty close. Most of them are a little bit below rated velocity, but pretty close. 44 Special, we're rated at 900 feet per second, 10 feet per second more. Semi-jacketed 200 grain hollow points. See how this does. See how close we get to 900 feet per second. 766, 779, 796, 796, 795. So I am pretty surprised with that. I was not expecting through a 4 1/4 inch barrel to be over 100 feet per second below the rated velocity. That's not looking good for this, because this is a semi-jacketed hollow point. Typically, if those flatten when they hit something, they'll over penetrate. So let's start our ballistics gel block, see how these compare. All right, plain clear ballistics test. This is our best potential. I call that because it gives the best potential for that hollow point to expand. Sometimes on a semi-jacket, it's kind of the opposite, where, you know, it's working on mushrooming rather than, you know, peeling out like a jacketed hollow point. But this I call my best potential. So let's see how our 45 ACP does. Plain gel. All right, let me hit above that here. 44 Special, see how this compares. Go take a look. And just as I had suspected, you know, I've done this enough to know velocities like that, semi-jacketed hollow points flatten, that pushes them in a very straight line, and it causes them to over penetrate. So that's what we got with our 44 Special. Very disappointing unless you're looking for something that will penetrate that far. Our 45 ACP, we got good damage, we got good energy dump, which we did not get with our 44 Special. We have very consistent tearing, cutting with that jacketed hollow point. Not huge expansion from what I can tell, 15.5 inches of penetration. Our 44 Special just trucked along in a perfectly straight line, and we have about 31 3/4 inches of penetration. Camo parallax on the bullet on the back of this block with this sometimes makes it look like I'm not lining my finger up where I am, but again, 31 3/4. So that's a lot of penetration. That's definitely over penetration. I would consider that a fail for the 44 Special. But let's put on our denim, put on our MDF. You know, the 44 Special will probably perform better with our more real world test, and our 45 ACP will probably perform, I guess, worse. So let's see how they do. All right, 4 layers of denim, a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard after 3 inches of clear ballistics, more of our real world simulation with rib simulation. So 45 ACP. All right, let me hit above that with our 44 Special. We'll take a look. And as I was thinking, yeah, a little bit worse performance, quite a bit worse performance with a 45 ACP, a little better with our 44 Special, and that's because, you know, with a semi-jacketed hollow point, you're working with getting some mushrooming rather than peeling out expansion. And when we see where our 45 hit here on the bottom and our 44, there's really no change to either of those. The difference would be that after hitting this, the 44 could potentially get bigger. At this point here with our 45, if it's clogged with denim causing that, which it probably is, so we have less energy dump in this first 3 inches with our 45, it's not going to have expansion. So looking through here, what we have with our 45 ACP is it's not too bad over penetration. These bubbly marks here would indicate tumbling, and it just kind of came back nose first. And being only a 200 grain, it's not going to over penetrate way too much because there's a little bit less momentum going on there with the lighter bullet. So we are at 21 inches, which I would not consider that too bad, honestly. 21 inches, clear ballistics is often a little less dense than organic gel. Hey, that's fine, I'll take that. Now, interestingly enough here, our 44 Special, I would just about say that's okay too. We're at about 22¼ inches, which is definitely over penetration, but it's not to the extreme that you're going to see in plain clear ballistics. And I think that's important because when you're talking about shooting some sort of an attacker, whether it's a human or an animal, we're going to get some deformation of that lead tip. That's kind of how it was designed to be from way back when just semi-jacketed soft points existed. So you're going to get some of that, and it's going to slow it down a little bit because there should be a little bit of mushrooming, just enough that it's going to slow it down. So when we look at more of our real world simulation, our 45 still did a little better for damage, but I'm going to say it's pretty equal with that 44 Special. Our plain clear ballistic test, you know, if you did not hit a bone simulation, our 45 did very, very well. And also, you know, that hit clothing as well. So overall, they're a little bit closer than what you would think they would be, but you know, I still think the 45 did a little better here. So let's take a close-up look at these bullets, and I'm going to shoot my steel to see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. All right, so taking a close-up look at these bullets here, here's our 45 ACP through our plain gel. We have fantastic expansion. There's really nothing wrong with that. A little bit interesting bullet design. The center has kind of like a disconnected core versus the outside of that bullet. Now we look at our 44 Special. We had no expansion whatsoever, didn't even really flatten it. But that flat point, because it's a flat point and we didn't get enough velocity to expand it, that's why it went really, really deep. That's kind of how the Federal Punch 22 long rifle works. You know, you got that flat point so you can get reliable penetration. Now when we look at our 45 ACP through our medium density fiberboard and through our denim, we can see that that denim clogged that, which decreased its ability to expand in that first 3 inches. It hit the MDF and just trucked right through. Not necessarily a terrible performance, because being 45, it's still a 45. You're making a lot of damage, and even ball ammo in 45 ACP has a reputation for being relatively well at stopping a threat. I always hate it when people come up and they say, well, 45 is this, but a medical examiner looking at a hole through a body, the 9mm, you can't tell the difference between the size, but that has nothing to do with anything. When you actually look at, you know, quote-unquote stopping power in real-world incidents, the 45 ACP ball does a lot better than 9mm full metal jacket for stopping that dangerous attack at the moment, whether the person dies or not. Now, when we look at our 44 Special, we had even more flattening of that bullet. However, the flattened nose became roughly the size of the body of the bullet. as where this had more of a pointier nose, I guess you would say, a little bit more narrow. So what you're going to get in effect is you're going to slow it down with more frontal area, and that's basically all that happened with this. So being that it can mushroom a little bit and this cannot, you know, this is definitely a better design for a very, very slow moving cartridge versus this. So overall, I'm going to say our 44 Special is not impressive whatsoever. You could do worse, but yeah, I wouldn't seek this out and be like, yeah, I'm looking for that for defense. Yeah, this is relatively low enough in price that it's pretty good target ammo. I can't remember what I paid, but I think it was like $40 for 50 rounds, which nowadays isn't too terrible when you're looking at 44 Special. It is expensive to shoot. Now, our 45 ACP, I believe this was something like maybe $35 a box. You could do it quite a bit better for 45 ACP if you shopped around. You can get HST and stuff like that for that price at certain websites that sell it for law enforcement. So neither of these really impressed me. However, the accuracy for this and the just good enough performance of this is enough that I would say if this is all you can find, go ahead and use it. But look for something better for this 44 Special, because this isn't that great. So that was a close-up look at those bullets. All right, so I'm at my 25-yard marker. These pistols are pretty big, so let's see what I can do with our 45 ACP. All right, I was firing kind of rapidly just to kind of see how they would fire from 25 yards if I did it like that, and I missed a couple. Let me do the same thing with our 44 Special. That's that last one. So shootability is pretty good with these. Let me back it up to 40 yards. That's my favorite distance to shoot from now, because of the, you know, Dickens situation where a concealed carrier took out a mass shooter at 40 yards, and we'll just see how they shoot for me from that distance. So my 25-yard drill was just to kind of see how they felt for me for, you know, firing quickly. I try to do more practical stuff rather than just try to look good. So just getting a quick sight picture, letting them go, see what would happen. I did notice a difficulty with the 45 ACP, even though the recoil is similar, but there was definitely a little bit less recoil with the 44 Special in this revolver, so it felt like getting that follow-up shot was a little bit easier. So now it's time to actually try. I'm going to aim center with these and see how they compare. So 45 ACP from 40 yards. Shot fine for me. Believe it or not, to this day I still get a lot of comments, why are you gripping like that? It's because I'm a revolver shooter, and switching back and forth doing this is not good for a revolver. So I like to keep one grip that does both platforms. I don't have to think about it. So 44 Special, let's see how this does. Felt like it did pretty well. Some of those impacts are high, and I was seeing that, I think it's from the 44 Special where they're hitting high, and I was definitely seeing how these were raising up at even at 5 yards, because, you know, velocity is going super slow. It's gonna leave that muzzle just a split second after you get some muzzle rise. So I'm gonna aim a little bit lower. All right, that last one was definitely all on me. I kind of felt myself just kind of pull that. I was going to end this here, but these are actually shooting pretty good for me. I love the heavy cartridges that you know, over distance, they have good momentum. They're very accurate. So let me shoot some from 75 yards and see how they do for me. All right, 75 yards from the target. You wouldn't think I'd have to tell people this every time, but this is just for fun. It's just kind of plinking at this point. A lot of people think that I'm training to shoot attackers from 75 yards that are attacking me, and I'm going to get in trouble because it wasn't justified. And it's just like, calm down. I'm just shooting for fun at some distance. I like doing it. So 45 ACP. Let's see if I can make any hits with this. I'd say that shoots pretty good. 44 special. I'm not sure what to expect with this. Bullet rising should about come back down, because that's kind of what happens. You get a little bullet rise, they come up, and then slow velocity, heavy bullets, they start to come back down on the target. So if I aim center, it should be all right, but we'll see how this does for me. Really high. That's interesting because I'm aiming perfectly center. The first shot hit, next shot was over the target by probably 4 feet, which doesn't translate on that downrange camera very well. It looks like, you know, it's very bizarre. Like, you'll hit stuff above it, but it'll actually look like it's the right height, but to the right, but it's actually dead center and above it because camera parallax. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. So let me keep going with this. Alright, so that's 4 out of 5 hits. I was aiming at the very base of that target, and that miss was just on me, just kind of jerking the shot a little bit there. So looking at both these, I'm going to say they're not too bad, and the reason why I'm going to say they're not too bad is because they start with a 4. If you can get something that's a 40 plus caliber, 44, 45, they're generally gonna do pretty well, even if the ballistic performance doesn't look great, because, you know, a lot of people want to get stuff like 30 caliber, like let's say 30 super carry or something. Well, I can get it to expand to 42 caliber. Well, you don't even have to do that if you're already talking 44 special, you know, stuff like that. So in a technical sense, they fail because we did not get expansion every time. But I'm still going to say they're pretty good. Now, when we look at our 44 special, way below rated velocity, point of impact's quite a bit off, while our real world simulation did fine. I'm just going to say that overall, looking at this, there's a little bit too much over penetration, not enough velocity. So even though it's okay, it's not that good. Now, our 45 ACP, I would say that's quite a bit better. We have full bullet expansion through our plain gel. In our real world simulation, we did not get hollow point expansion, but it's still a 45 caliber 200 grain bullet. It's going to slow down pretty well and not over penetrate. Our 45 ACP was very, very accurate. All were pretty much hitting in the same hole at 5 yards, except one I pulled to the left. So very accurate out of this pistol. So I'm going to say our 45 ACP, if you had to do a competition, which I don't do, but a lot of people think these are all competitions, our 45 ACP here won it. It did okay. It's acceptable. You could definitely do a lot better for 45 ACP than this, but considering the accuracy of it, it seemed like they loaded it for accuracy. Very, very accurate. So that comes into play. If it's accurate, shootable, reliable, which not all ammo is in this Glock, you know, I'm going to say that at least out of a gun like this, it's not bad. The 44 special, you could do a lot better than this. Unfortunately, most 44 special that's loaded for defense nowadays doesn't do a whole lot better than this. You have to basically go up to Buffalo Bore or Underwood and get kind of like a lead hollow point to really have a good load, or a TAC XP bullet loaded by a Buffalo Bore. But overall, you could do a lot worse than both of these. So mediocre at best. So that's what you get with this ammunition. It's okay in the 45, 44. I would just plink with it. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.